What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back from the Fringe. I'll take a little bit of a break from what's happening in Alberta to maybe talk a little bit more about what we can expect going back into the House of Commons once government actually resumes. I know it's weird, right? The government's actually going to go to work for about a whole month before they go on summer holidays again. I don't mean to make jokes at anybody's expense here. I just find it funny that we've gone almost a year without any government actually working. And now they're going to come back to basically go to work for a month and then take off. A lot of people still shaken after the election. A lot of people still wondering, what does it look like moving forward? Is Pierre Poilievre staying on as leader of the Conservatives? After all, during his concession speech, he said there was still a lot of work to do and he would be there to fight against the Liberals in the House of Commons. Many people speculated what happened, why Pierre lost his riding in Carleton. There's two reasons for that I believe. And I kind of want to I want to get in on that because there's been a lot of pushback on YouTube channels, anybody who supported Pierre Poilievre through this. And I kind of want to clear that up as we go through this article. Now, this article, granted, is over at City News. And it's about Bruce Fanjoy and his success of taking over Carleton. The reason I wanted to mention this, if you know the boundaries of Carleton, actually, they were redrawn back in 2023. The boundaries were reset to include a larger portion of a town just outside of Ottawa called Canada. Now, the Carleton region, when you think about Canada, when you think about Carleton itself, a lot of government employees in there. A lot of employees that work for government programs, civil servants. They're saying that a lot of that put heavy factor into Pierre Poilievre being elected in that riding. This Bruce Fanjoy, who has zero experience, he's a low-level tier. He really isn't much of a politician. He took a huge gamble. Now, it says in this article, I'm not going to go verbatim in this article, but what you have to take from it is he's saying that the cutting of programs, the talking about cutting of government programs, when you look at Doge in America, when you look at everything that was saved up and the people pushing back against what Trump and Elon Musk have done with Doge in the United States, these government employees were essentially scared they were going to lose their jobs. They'd all be out of work. We saw the CBC and many mainstream prostitutes scrambling throughout the election because they were going to be unemployed. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. Mostly the reason people voted in this district against Poilievre was Trump. They said that he was too much like Trump, even though he was saying he was going to go dollar to dollar with Trump. I really don't know where people are getting those from. I'm not here to distinguish woke ideologies. But one of the biggest problems, and somebody who actually lived in Carleton, or lives in Carleton, emailed me after the election and said why they thought he lost the election. And that was followed up by a couple more emails from people who live in the district because they saw our coverage of the live stream during election night and saw that I was gobsmacked. How does Pierre lose his seat? How does he lose his riding? Often the most simple explanation is the most relevant one. And one of the quotes that Bruce gives in this article is something that not a lot of people know. Fanjoy said Poilievre neglected his constituents. Quote, I think he took the riding for granted, he said, not just between elections, but in this election, there was no evidence of a very active campaign from him until it was too late. Last week, again, when they had their rally, their final rally in Carleton. I don't know when that was booked or planned, but they claim that it was done once Pierre saw that he was at risk of losing his riding. Many people want to blame the 91 ballots on the sheet. Now, don't get me wrong, no riding should have that many people on a ballot ever. There should be like a limit of 4, the major parties, and that's it. But it says they then realized that this was going to be closer than they thought. It's been the pattern of how he's represented Carleton for the last number of years. He's taken us for granted, and nobody likes to feel taken for granted. And that came back and played a huge role in this campaign. Fanjoy said he started reaching out to Carleton constituents before the campaign even began. Now, the emails that I received had said that a lot of people were deeply saddened and deeply upset that Pierre Poilievre counted Carleton as a safe win. That, in fact, he hadn't put boots on the ground in Carleton door knocking physically in person. His team had, but he hadn't in what they said was almost 5 years. Now, whether or not that is true is hearsay based on what I was told from residents. But now you have people asking the question, does Pierre Poilievre represent the Conservatives in the House of Commons? Does he step down? There's a number of outlets calling on him to step down, but you do have an argument here from Andrew Scheer, who sat down with Vashi to talk about the number of seats that Pierre has gained for the Conservatives, that essentially those who voted for Mark Carney are going to quickly see what happened. I mean, I've said it too. I think that within a year, Canada could be back at the polls. People are going to get buyer's remorse when it comes to Mark Carney. As soon as he starts turning the gears, as soon as he starts instituting all the things that are going to harm those who thought that he was going to deal with Trump. Again, we've had videos showing he has no plans to talk to Donald Trump, at least on the level that people who voted for him thought he would. Yes, he's had a phone conversation with Trump, but he's made it very clear to the BBC he has no plans to go down there and swap ideas. CTV Powerplay tweeting out, I wish Conservatives at other levels around the country would help, would be more organized, and that, or more cognizant, that it's about the people. Andrew Scheer responds to Conservative Premiers Doug Ford, who is a traitor, and Tim Houston taking aim at the federal CPC campaign. Again, New Brunswick, taking a huge jab at Pierre, saying that they now agree with Carney's climate plans. Doug Ford is essentially campaigning. People have said Doug Ford is going to try to come in as leader of the Conservatives. That's not going to fly. He's never going to get it. He's a sellout. He's a traitor. He's a liberal. Doug Ford, I'm telling you, he's very lucky there's no recall legislation in Ontario, because this guy would be losing his job tomorrow. It says, quote here, I'll point out Pierre Poilievre got more votes in Ontario than Doug Ford did. Now that's Andrew Scheer's quote. I want to play a little bit of the clip, and then we'll talk a little bit about what this means moving forward.
We saw historic gains. We saw massive amounts of new voters. There's a story to be told there about all the new people that Pierre has attracted to our movement. I mean, people who say that some of the criticisms I just heard on the leading to the show, they're just not looking at the facts. The facts are more people voted for us than ever before. We got a higher percentage than ever in the modern Conservative history, and we picked up seats that we haven't held in some cases in 20 years. So did we do enough to win? Clearly, we have more work to do. There's another step to this journey, but there's an incredible base of support here that we could not have achieved without Pierre Poilievre's inspirational leadership.
I think you're pointing to comments from Premier Doug Ford in Ontario and Premier Tim Houston in Nova Scotia, and I take your point about all the gains, and I think that's a completely fair comment on what happened. But like you said, it wasn't enough to win. And the Liberals actually increased their share of the popular vote by more than yours did after a record that you've spent 2 years criticizing.
So what's important to bring up about that is that the majority of seats that the Liberals flipped, that the Liberals gained, came from NDP ridings because Jagmeet Singh threw in the towel. Everybody knew that. We followed that here on election night, that these were formerly NDP ridings. And we also talked about it on a previous video before the election, that this by far would have been the one thing that, when you heard Elizabeth May saying that they were going to do everything in their power to make sure that Pierre Poilievre didn't get a majority government, Jagmeet Singh saying he didn't sit nice with Pierre having a majority government ever. It's the reason he didn't call an election from before when it would have been a shoo-in against Justin Trudeau. We covered articles that said that the Liberals were banding together with the NDP to essentially have dominant ridings, meaning that in some ridings where the Liberals had steam but were dragged behind the NDP, well, some deals would be offered to the NDP for the Liberals to run there and have a more prominent campaign, like Jagmeet throwing the towel in, to essentially mean that they turn the ridings, they get voted in. We now have rumor going around that Mark Carney is offering deals to those few NDP MPs left across the floor so that he has a majority government. This just shows the extent of corruption within the federal government, and I have no idea what we can expect moving back into the House of Commons. However, a lot of pundits, a lot of social news sites, a lot of outlets are calling for Pierre Poilievre to step down. They're saying he lost. This is the fourth loss for the Conservatives in a row. Pierre doesn't have the staying power to get elected. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the case. I think Pierre should remain at the head of the Conservative Party because, quite frankly, who would they replace him with? Who has the charisma, the staying power, the ability to debate like Pierre and get people going up? I'm not going to downplay the electrifying presence Pierre had throughout this country at every one of his rallies. In fact, the one that I covered on this channel was absolutely electrifying. I know I keep using that word, but there's no other way to describe it. When Pierre lost the election, I sat here dumbfounded asking, how does this happen? When you have that kind of a momentum, how does this happen? Many people cite to shenanigans within the election. I got to be careful how I say that because of YouTube. Many people cite a lot of different reasons when they say it was bad marketing. It was certain views on Trump. It was not enough effort put forward in the campaign. Again, my most baffling point of the evening was watching Carleton move to the Liberals. But nonetheless, I've said for a long time, and I've taken a lot of flack. A lot of channels are taking flack. There's a lot of people angry right now, and rightfully so. They're mad. They had their faith placed in hope. They wanted change. They wanted to see the country change. A lot of people are saying that it's the fault of this channel. A lot of other channels like Moose on the Loose, The Pleb, myself, Clinton Jaws, Mr. Sunshine Baby, for all towing the line, for saying Pierre's got it in the bag. Pierre's gonna win. Pierre's on fire. I have some sour news for you. If you think that these channels, no matter their size, has the ability to turn an election, you're very sadly mistaken. When you go to a sporting event, even if the odds are stacked against your team, you don't go in saying, well, we might lose because, this is a better team. This is the way things are. No, you go in cheering for your team. All of these channels banded together to get the word out, to get people encouraged to vote. We wanted to push people to vote, and there's nothing wrong with cheerleading to an extent. I've always said that one thing you'll never get on this channel is politician worship, which anybody in my community can vouch. I have called Pierre out from day one. Anytime there's been a misstep, anytime there's been something to carry, at least you can say there was times when my community was saying, Derek, you're rocking the boat. You're going to upset the voters. You're going to do the wrong thing here. Look, I don't think anybody should idolize their government. I think that everybody should always question their government. Everybody should always look for accountability. Do I think Pierre made missteps? Absolutely. I was sitting here a month ago claiming he needs to fire his team. He needs to get rid of his team and get a better team. Again, you can quote me on that. Go back in the videos. They're there. I think when it comes to branding, marketing, and getting the message out, and the short amount of time that Pierre's team was given, again, with the criticism that he wasn't present in Carleton, he had less than 30 days to run an election. I don't know what people expected. He can't be everywhere at once. It's definitely an unfortunate misstep that Pierre lost the election. But again, I put the blame on his team, the people who thought they knew better than him, the people who directed him where to go, where to spend his time. You'll again quote me again. I said that I didn't think it was wise for him to be spending as much time out west when his time was better served being in southern Ontario, where he needed to get votes, where he needed to turn people around. I'm no specialist when it comes to elections. But when you know where the per capita vote matters in this country, where you know where the votes matter to become prime minister, that is where the focus should have been spent, in my opinion, on this election. It's sad to see that it went this way. Hopefully, what we see is Pierre get a safe seat. They're saying somewhere in Alberta, where again, he's guaranteed his seat back into the House of Commons. Hopefully, we can see Pierre run again. Hopefully, we can see a presence from the Conservative Party that factors like Donald Trump are not as present in the election this next time around. And hopefully Mark Carney has a terrible track record. Hopefully we even get there when the talks of Alberta separation are so wildly flaming out of control. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think Pierre lost Carleton because of 91 names on a ballot? Do you think it was neglect? Do you think it was that they just didn't do enough? Let me know what you think down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that button, you click the bell for all notifications so you don't miss a beat on any videos. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say in each and every one of those live streams, but I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.